We're in a different place and a different time. I hope people are able to come out. Is there any public comment not related to what is on the agenda? Okay, hearing none. I will entertain a motion to adopt the minutes of the December 18th, 2017 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Any additions or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I didn't hear enough ayes.
Aye.
Okay, we're going to change our, well, actually, we're not going to do our warrants and bills until after, so that you have to travel along the way. So we're going to go right into the park project. Now, actually, Abigail isn't here.
Do you want to wait just a minute, because Santa's still coming?
Who?
Or
Santa's
Santa works
coming?
with me.
Okay.
So I think you
do warrants.
do the warrants and bills.
Okay,
It's
let's
almost an exciting moment
Give
anyway.
us a little
Nothing
more.
better.
There's not too many. I don't think it's good. Except we have a huge bill from
It's almost as good as paying bills at home.
equipment failure on the, what?
I'll share the photos of the last 2 weeks with you. That's
I can't hear you. This is an echo in here. What'd you say?
I was making a joke.
Oh, I'm
It
sure.
will lose itself in translation.
Okay.
I know. Yeah.
Rob got my approval for that purchase. Which is why we want to get a new plan, because things start falling apart.
Louise, did you see the email today?
Yeah, I didn't have any other bills.
You just print out?
Was there a print? Was there one to print? Oh, I didn't see it.
I
Oh,
told her that we will process it today.
well, I didn't print it, so you should have printed it. I'm sure I got it. I didn't see it attached. Was it attached? All right.
Okay. Lot of bills.
We're on
Yeah.
bills.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. We can start. Angela's going to start.
Yeah, I can start.
I'm waiting for the large drawings. I have
Oh, okay.
small drawings, but I'm waiting for the
Okay.
large. We can move it at the small.
We've all got.
Abigail told me she was coming. so.
She is, but she said she would late.
She's
But
yeah.
So Angela Emerson here from Ellie Environmental, and we are very pleased to present the final design for the Saxtons River Park project tonight. Sam will be here in a little bit from JMDS with some larger plans, hopefully to give an overview of the design and feel for the thing. But in the meantime, I can talk about schedule, costs, and the next steps. So our schedule as of now is January 2018, hopefully getting final design approval by the trustees, applying for the zoning permit, and then sending the plans to the Vermont DEC and the EPA for one last look. February 2018, we hope to be out to bid and conducting the mandatory pre-bid meeting at the site. March of this year, we will hopefully select a contractor and our permits will be awarded. And that leaves the construction for April to August 2018. It's not going to take that whole time. We estimate about 6 weeks of construction, but we would like to leave a little bit of leeway for the contractors so that they can fit it into their schedule, and that way hopefully we'll get more bids and interest in the project. And then final inspections and cleanup reporting would be September of 2018. The costs, as they stand now, which are final budgetary costs, came in around what we thought they were going to. So for the park construction, it's around $280,000. And so the total project costs with the QEP and the design Regional Commission's project management is $340,000. Those are all brownfield related costs. There is also some budget here for non-brownfield related costs, so things like decorative plantings and benches and signs and electrical service. So basically, we plan to run the conduit for that service, and then the village can decide if they want to activate that. So everything subgrade will be laid for them. So the next steps is to, as I said, get final design approval by the trustees and then revise bid documents with updated schedules and any changes from the trustees. And then we will place the invitation to bid in newspapers, on the Vermont bid system, and email to local contractors that we think may be interested. And we'll conduct a pre-bid meeting, and then we'll select the contractor and sign the contract.
What is the cost of the benches, decorative plantings, et cetera?
Well, we have budgetary costs of all of the non-brownfield related items right now of about $46,000, and that includes a 15% contingency. And of course, that can change depending on what is achieved by everything. That's what we would like to see. Make the park very good.
And that includes plantings, benches, the sign part, the electrical things, the meter, pads, things like that. Okay.
That's all
I'm
right.
waiting for Sam, but what I'm going to do instead, since she unfortunately brought small drawings, thinking it was in the old room, and so why don't you all look at this room, this one, and I will try and make sure everyone can see these. Hopefully she's just making some more copies, if you don't mind, put it there. Great, and I'll just take that. Put it right there. Actually, this design is not that different than what you all have already seen. But
What has changed?
what has changed is that we've done a complete bid package that is detailed in all of its many ways that we need to detail a set of drawings so that they can go out to bid and have apples to apples rather than apples to oranges bids. If you don't do all the detailing, you're going to get all sorts of things coming in. So we've done things like specify, exactly what the sidewalks are, exactly what the plantings are, where they are, what the possible benches can look like, although some of that can change because we may have donors for that down the road for the bench piece, and may they want to be involved. There's some potential changes that can be made still, but basically what the wall type will be, what the footings for the wall will look like, what are the dimensions of everything and where they all sit in the landscape. So all that's quite clear now and ready to go out to bid as soon as all of this is approved. Someone else? Yes, it is. All right. Perfect, Sam. Thank you.
I will point out that one of the major changes, though, that we had to do was the parcel that's separated by the fire truck access.
Yes.
I don't know if you guys are aware of the second parcel it's not touching the rest of the park, but it's across the fire truck access, and it's very overgrown. But it came to our attention as we were spending time in there that people were still walking down through there and accessing the building. So we thought it would be best to sort of clear a path, about a 5-foot wide swath around that, put a fence and some signs, leave the interior wooded and vegetated so people can't get to it, but sort of make it known that that's not okay and to protect people from the contaminants there. But it didn't add much of the cost, actually.
So you're walling off that area or fencing off?
Fencing, yes. Once we have the bigger plans here, I can point to the fence. With a split rail fence.
Do you want to go along with the drawings of all of the sites? Yeah. This one maybe.
They were asking about the fencing down in the southern border. I think that's the So essentially,
Can you see that? Well, we need to, so everyone can see it. There we go.
Okay, so this hatched area here is going to get, it's going to be,
Why don't you go over there?
Can you change your camera? Oh, great. All right, let's come over. Then everyone can turn this way.
Because then we can't see it, it's too far away.
Thank you.
River Street,
So helpful.
the fire truck access here, foundations are here. And down here is the parcel where people are sort of accessing, it's very overgrown. Our initial plan was not to really touch that, but we found that people were still coming down and accessing the property. So this will be a 5 to 10 foot area of capped, so a clean capped, with a split rail fence and signs saying, do not enter brownfields. The interior will remain as is, vegetated.
Does everyone know what a cap is, just to make sure? I don't know if you've all been at all the meetings. Okay, so I'm going to let Angela.
So the contamination on the property is related to the historic use over time, no use, and it's PAHs, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, which form from the incomplete combustion of carbon-containing material, they're carcinogen, and some metal. And so the plan here is to put a protective cap either grass or a sidewalk or a wall that nobody can actually come into contact with that contaminated soil.
So, but specifically around this area, what is the cap going to be?
It's a soil, just soil.
Just soil.
You won't be able to tell, it'll just be clean soil at that border where the fence posts will be.
And we have some plantings there or not?
In the southern parcel, we are seeding.
By the way, this is Sam Anderson, who works with me.
Nice.
And she actually did a lot of detailed drawings here, so I needed her to come.
Yes.
Sam, why don't you bring all the drawings right up here, and then we can access them as we need them. Just bring the book out. Is there a question?
Yeah, I had a question.
Sorry, yeah.
Is the row of trees staying?
Which
Is
one?
that shown well?
Yes.
Well, that's in there, but next to the right-of-way that comes up through, is that what's on this side? It's long, or is that a fence?
These right here?
Existing row of trees that are on site.
The existing.
Above the fire access.
This is,
Yeah.
That's the lower
This
site.
is here?
That's the lower site. So where's the row of trees? The row of trees is on the top edge of
Oh, are you
that.
talking about the evergreen trees?
No, I'm talking about the row of trees that's on this side of that site.
which side?
The upper side.
So
Where's the river?
The upper side or
The river's down there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you talking about this area in here?
Yeah, there's a row of trees
So
that's
these,
above the foundations that are there.
yes, so this area in here is wooded. And basically what the plan is for capping and seeding is to have the person who's installing it use their discretion and come in to what it would be the tree line. So you start out with a thick cap right at the edge of the roadway and the edge of the property, and then it starts to thin out and feather it into the forest so that any trees of significant size are not removed.
Doesn't answer my question. Nice, that's a nice explanation, but, so as I'm looking at that, where's the river? The river is on.
Down here is all the river right in here.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So this is only the southern section?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but on the top edge of that,
Yeah.
there is a line of trees right now. Correct?
Below the fire access?
No.
Well,
No.
so you're,
Up on top.
That, would you go up and show it?
yeah, I think you're,
Show me exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Well, that's easier.
This is the fire road.
Yeah, it's the fire road.
Right.
So right now, there's a row of trees right here.
Oh, there.
Okay.
So, and you're showing trees here, I understand what's going on,
Yes.
capping it and then kind of.
So what are we
So-
doing down?
So what's happening with that row of trees?
We're not touching it. So where there is no hatch, that kind of grayish texture, that's where there's capping happening. But if you don't see that texture, there's no cap. Yeah.
Good.
Thank you.
Sorry, yes, we didn't understand. So this is just the southern portion. Do we have a bigger plan of the whole thing?
Yeah.
Let's just show that. So this is all in context.
Since we couldn't
And we're not touching anything along the shoreline. Partly because we're not allowed to, and partly because we don't need to.
The road.
So that's the whole site, and that's a funny site. Why don't you just take them through everything that's there?
Sure, so, we were just looking at the southern remediation zone, which
Next to
is
this.
just this area.
Right away. It goes
Sorry, I'm blocking any forward.
Where the old road going through.
Okay.
There's a line of trees.
So, right
Right at
down
the top,
here.
right at the top of the bank.
Yeah,
But
that's.
this is where we were just talking about, just this piece right
You can only go
here.
down so far.
This is the fire access, and then this is, again, an area that is considered the southern remediation zone. It's areas that are not part of what would be a public park. And then this section in here is where the old stone foundations are. Again, this is no public access. There's some minimal capping happening in here, with the priority being to preserve the trees that are of a mature size. And then to the north, this is the public park, and this is the area that you'd be able to access.
So that latter part that you were talking about is what Matt was talking about with, no.
Yeah, so that was the flow of this area.
It's right below, adjacent to what's being developed.
Yes, so,
No.
yes.
No.
Matt, why don't you point it out?
Yeah.
Stay there, Rob. So right away, this comes through.
Yes, that's right.
Top of the bank is
Yep.
the dotted line.
Yep.
Okay, there's a row of trees.
Yes.
That go up through there. Those are the ones that I'm talking about.
Oh, okay, we're down here.
I didn't know.
Okay.
This is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So I know that this is going to get a cap down here.
Yes.
And all of that, but I'm just concerned that that row of trees that it stays there. The good ones stay.
Well, and there's
so
a
that we don't-
particularly important row of trees in where the
Oh, yeah.
neighbor is.
Right, but this up here,
Uh-huh.
since this is at the top of the bank, I'm just wondering.
What we haven't done yet, there probably is only, Matt, only because we haven't assessed the value of those, the quality of those trees.
Yep, okay.
And, there are a lot of black locusts, so they're probably fine.
Right.
But whether we want to keep them all for view's sake and for other things, I think is something we're all need, when we finally get onto this.
Right, it just seems like
That's what we should all do.
there's a definition there.
Yeah,
That's.
there is.
And it seems a waste of money and time to cut down good trees and then replant some new ones.
Yes, and we're not planning to, the plantings that we're doing,
Yeah,
really, go through exactly
So,
the main plantings of trees.
the idea in here is to incorporate some shrub planting, something that's a little heftier than a perennial, with the existing tree line. So to plant around the trees to make that barrier between what is public park and what is just remediation zone more apparent. But we are prioritizing keeping as many existing mature trees of good quality as possible.
Where we are planting though is some trees is right.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I didn't understand your question, Matt. What was your question?
Whether those were just going to be clear cut out of there and the new trees are going to be planted, or some of those trees were going to be left because they're mature trees.
And the answer was?
The answer is that we really need to assess that together when we are on site doing this, because we have not had an arborist come in and look at all these trees for their quality. So it may be that there's some really bad trees when we get in there after all the ice storms and everything else we've just had that need to come down. But at this point, our assumption is, unless they're really blocking a view in a bad way or they're in really bad shape, we're going to keep the trees that are already there. That's our assumption.
So how does that work with the bidding process, and how does that work with remediation of that? You're going to cap below that, right down in the foundations, that gets
Angela, do
capped?
you want to explain the cap in the area below? Because it's easy to cap above.
Yes, so the cap, and we are doing a 6-inch cap inside the foundations with some wildflower seeds, I believe, right? But for the most part, we're trying to vegetate that area to keep people out. So we will keep the existing trees, we need them, and then plant as little as possible to keep people out of the area.
But I think what you're saying too is we're not necessarily going to put a cap of soil on top of the
Correct.
area where there are
Yep.
existing trees, because that would change
Right.
the level
Yep.
that the
Right.
trees will die, they'll die if we do
Right.
that. So the solution is to plant shrubs in places where we don't want people to travel.
Okay.
And one other thing I'll just point out too is that on these plans and on the survey, not every single tree of a significant size is noted on the plan. So, it is a little deceiving. It looks maybe more like we're taking more trees away than we are, but in actuality, we're going to preserve that tree line as best as we can.
I don't want to get hung up on this too long, but, so back to bid process, construction.
Yep. Yeah, you
So
know this.
who's going to go and decide and put a ring, a tape on the tree and say, don't touch that tree?
Yeah.
I mean, who
Well,
is
we
that?
will do that,
Okay.
but we would like to do it with you all, just because I think you're our client. And we would like to make sure that we don't take something down that should be taken down, and that we do want the view that we look at. I think there's some subtle things that can happen there, and it may be that we want to do it at the end of the process, because then we'll really have a park, we'll have places to sit, we'll have it all mocked up in real time and full scale, and we'll be able to just make some selective cuttings. But who does that? Probably will find somebody that we're not doing the bid process with.
So what scope of,
That's my understanding.
what scope of that, tree removal is in the bid?
We don't have any tree removal at this point, do
We
we?
do have some clearing and rubbing because there's some overgrown stuff that needs to
Okay.
be taken down.
So do we have an allowance for that?
Yeah, we have a $2,000 allowance.
Which isn't much, right?
I would think, and
People change those.
I'm not going to tell you how to do your business, but I would think that taking trees out would be a lot less expensive if it was done before any construction was done.
It would be.
Capped process,
Sure.
because you're not going to be dropping them on the ground then
Yeah.
and dragging them out because things are
Yeah.
planted.
No, it's true, and people will want the black locust, so it's going to be easy to have it leave, because it's such great wood. So,
Okay.
I mean, 2,000 is not much, so this is a good question. We do have a 15% contingency if we find we really want to take a lot more trees, but there will probably be other uses of those contingency monies. So that's a good point, Matt, and I think we should think about it again. What else? Do you want us to go through the design? What would be useful to you all at this point?
That'd be great if you want to just walk through it.
Good, okay.
Sure.
Should we put up a little more?
Yeah.
That lower performing area was a lot lower.
Yes.
What's the reasoning for bringing it up?
So the reason for that is another good question is as we were working through the design, our civil engineer realized he needed more information at the street level. We didn't have enough survey information for him to finish his grading plan. And it was a surprise that there was actually a discrepancy between the levels up here that we needed to meet and what we had down here. So in order to make this ramp here ADA accessible, we ended up doing a wholesale raising of the design about 1 foot. So everything stayed the same, except it all just raised 1 foot. So the consequence is that there's a little bit more fill down in here, and then these 2 steps were removed. And that's pretty much it. Yeah. You had a question?
Yeah, I was just going to ask if you could maybe walk us through the material specs, what the stone, what kind of stone for the retaining walls, and also I think you said, but I didn't hear what the path itself would be, and anything else you can.
Sure. I can talk a little bit about that. So the path is predominantly asphalt, so it will be the same material. Asphalt. It's just the same material as the sidewalk, and we chose that as a cost savings. It's an inexpensive material, but to make it feel a little bit more special and dress it up, we're putting a cobblestone edge flush with the pavement on either side. So you can see in this rendering, there's this light gray line along either side of that pavement, and that indicates the cobble edging. So it makes it allows you to understand it's the part instead of the sidewalk.
You know, before we had talked about SurePack, to have a more natural feel to it than concrete, is there any reason we can't?
Well, SurePack's a really hard material to keep in place, A, and B, to have it not erode with lots of downpours and snow shoveling and other things. It's just not a permanent solution the way that the asphalt was.
What about pavers or?
Pavers we can't afford. I mean, it'd be a big fundraising piece on your side.
We talked a lot about it.
We've talked a lot about
And
it.
we were trying to figure out what the best way to, we needed it to be durable, we needed it to be the right price, and also beautiful. So.
Also, able to be used by someone in a wheelchair.
Absolutely.
Well, that was the most important.
Yeah.
The pavers can do that. They can.
They can.
But that's a whole other level of expense, and we have a lot of curves here, so there's a lot of cutting to pavers compared to, the flow of the asphalt. And we sort of, in the end, we thought of every material. And, obviously, we would love to have bluestone or granite or, no stamp concrete, because that wouldn't work here. But, there are just many things we could have done. But in the end, it seemed like if we could dress it up a little bit, let a continuity of a line, sort of pull you in and become something special, then it'll just go away and not be too important. We certainly didn't want to do a white concrete. A tinting of concrete is very expensive. Stamping of concrete is expensive. So that's how we really ended up with asphalt with the edging to it. And I think it'll look fine. It'll sit down because it's a dark color and will not be calling that much attention to itself. Compared to the walls, which were more important to us, the handrails important to us, the plantings are important because those things, the grading and how it all flows was extremely important. Not that paths aren't, but in the end, we were stuck with a winter climate that needed to be durable under all conditions.
What will the edges look like? I mean, it sounds very pretty to me. But
They're cobbled,
or there's rectangular blocks.
Mhm. They're this big, and they're got gray granite.
Okay.
Yeah.
Color text maybe round and irregular.
Oh, sorry, cobblestone, like they would be on a street in Boston.
Yeah.
That kind of cobblestone.
That's great.
Yeah.
And they're granite, not concrete?
They're granite. They're granite.
Mhm.
Yeah, the concrete wouldn't last for
Yeah.
us.
Your gray granite, the edging?
Yeah, gray, a real granite.
Medium gray.
Chelmsford or one of the ones that, sort of the typical Massachusetts, Vermont granite. I don't know if we're not sure where they're coming from yet because the contractors will price this out.
Got a lot in Barry.
There are lots of Mary. It would be great if they were local. That's what we obviously prefer to see. So,
So other materials, so the stone in here, for the stone for the retaining walls, the seat walls, and any steps and flat paving surfaces, we're hoping to use a local granite. We, I think, often have Chester stone in mind. Again, it's going to be a conversation with the contractor to find the right material at the right price, but we're assuming it's a local granite stone, or local stone of some sort.
That had been discussed at 1.2, instead of the gray granite, we had talked about regular field stone to give it a more natural rural look to it. Is that still a possibility or not?
I think it could be.
yeah, I think it is. I mean, I think what we're going to do is put it out to bid, get all the bids back and see what people have done, look at their work, talk with them about materials, because our predilection is to go as local as possible. And that may mean fieldstone walls, it may mean Chester granite that's an ashlar pattern. There are many ways we could go here.
And I think in the packets, on one of the last sheets, maybe L1, we have one over here. There is a couple images of, they're inspiration images for the retaining walls. So you can see what we had in mind.
When you say, when you say retaining wall, are you talking about the 5-foot retaining wall?
Yeah, so,
And this one.
yeah.
That one, so that one as well would also be the same material?
Yes, so what is different about this wall versus these walls in here is that this wall is going to be, it's a concrete wall with a stone veneer.
Okay.
Because of the height.
Okay.
That would match the others.
Yeah, but we were very clear in our drawing packet that it was to match in aesthetic, and in material.
And that may be why they don't become actual brownfield stones. Because if we want to match this aesthetic with that aesthetic, it's going to be hard to split a field stone and apply it to a large wall when it's be a lot easier to use an ashlar pattern that's already cut and chiseled and able to be done. It's possible, but it's just we don't know the cost differential yet.
So is it specified in the package of what to use, or is that?
We've been very clear about the aesthetic and that we want it to be a local material. What that specific material is not determined, and that's something we would want to work out with the contractor. Let's see, and I think the last, or another material to discuss, the handrails. We would like them to be a wrought iron handrail. I think you had.
Well, we've used some wonderful handrail, really large. They feel fantastic, and as you work with them, I forget the name of the company, but we're going to have to get a lot of different bids on this, but it might be that we can identify one in this case and go with that contractor. It's just, they work out of Springfield Fence, but it's a separate company. I forget their name. Hawk Mountain. Yeah, I mean, we love their work. So we'd love to work with them if we could.
Yeah.
And we assumed that was the pricing structure for the handrails. And what we have.
What's the design of that? It's, retaining wall stops the surface, and then you have little pillars for the railing, or in the middle, or how do you place the railing?
So depending on where the railing is, so along the wall here, the taller retaining wall, what we would do is core drill into the wall itself and insert the railing that way. And that is a very secure fitting for the railing. And that's our recommendation. But, again, we're going to have to work with both the contractor and whoever ends up manufacturing the handrails. And, they're going to, have the best idea as to how to attach it securely.
Can I ask a question about this side of the property? The darker shaded is existing
Yes.
tree line, and the lighter shade is a new one, right?
Yes.
That's right.
So there's 3 different greens in here. The dark green is existing trees that will remain. This medium green color in here is new planting. So it's predominantly shrub plantings, but along here there's a few small trees which are indicated. And then again, these shade trees are new plantings as well. And the lightest green color is lawn.
So the width of existing and the new one, so our purpose is to fill in the wall, right?
Yeah, we want to make it a really beautiful way to indicate the separation of property, and to really, fortify that barrier. So the planting in here is a mixture of evergreen and deciduous shrubs and small trees. Some of them have flowers, but most of them are appropriate for the usage here, where it would be a naturalistic border shrub.
Sort of native border.
Yeah, so, they'll get, big and bushy on their own.
Yeah, and then a lot of berry shrubs for birds and things something that will feel natural to that area. But one of the issues was we wanted to give privacy to the park as well as privacy to the abutter, but we wanted the privacy as well. So I think that having a nice screen there would be great. It's going to come in relatively small, so don't be too surprised, just because we want to keep the cost down. But it will grow, as things do, quite well.
And one thing to mention again, it's not shown on here because this is an earlier rendering, but there is additional shrub planting, as we discussed earlier, along this southern border of the park here, and it would be intermixed with the existing tree line. So planted around the trees, and it would be a similar material, and achieving a similar goal.
Let's show the renderings for a second. And we can come back to this.
And those new shrubs,
One second.
they would need lots of maintenance, right?
Over time, they should need little maintenance. They were picked because they are tough plants.
Yeah, okay.
You know, there is always a level of maintenance that goes in when things are newly planted, but with time, predominantly water. But over time, they should grow in and hopefully be fairly self-sustainable. So this is a rendering that was produced along with this rendered plan. This is a view into the park. So here, very quickly, this view is you standing about right here. So looking in, it's right before you turn the corner into Saxtons River, Main Street here. We're looking into the park. So you see we have some taller shade trees in here. The sidewalk wraps around the park, but there's this ADA accessible path that comes down to this performance space in here. You can see at the performance space there's the seat walls with the lawn in between each stone wall. And behind, you can see filtered through the trees here, there's a few benches for additional seating to look into the performance space. And then we were just talking about the planting. Back here, we filled in the planting with a number of different species to achieve a greater screening in the area.
Got two questions.
Sure.
That curved retaining wall that's going to drop off about 5 feet, is the asphalt flush with the top of that, or does that wall come up?
The asphalt will be flush with it, but the railing would provide the safety barrier.
Right. Okay. And the other, with the asphalt, is that pervious or not?
We would love it to have been. The problem with pervious we're finding, you probably know this, Matt, is that it can clog up. And, well, there's several problems. A, it's expensive. Because everyone knows pervious, the water goes through the asphalt. And it's really exciting to think of using it, but there are problems. And one is that it clogs up with sand and silt and other things and needs to be sort of released all the time. A second is that it's expensive to put in. And a third is it's really hard to find people who know how to do it. And we have very narrow places. People don't mind doing it in large parking lots because they're good at that and it goes quickly and it's less expensive. But in a little squirrely set of beautiful lines like we have, it's a tricky place to actually do it. But we would love to have been able to.
How level is the area at the bottom, the performance area?
This area in here?
Yeah.
It's what you would expect for a play area for a lawn. So it's probably 2 to 3% slope.
It's got a little slope.
It's got a little bit for, it drains, but it's usable. It's would feel flat to you.
And it drains towards the river?
Yes.
And the other, is this the rendering that has the child playing? Oh, there's another rendering that Sam did with children playing on there. And that's the other way we'll see most of it. Most of the time is people will actually be doing things other than performing on it.
Which is my point, is my question, why call it a performance space? It is a play space. That's what it's going to be predominantly used. I think performance space is going to frighten some people.
Okay.
I think we shouldn't use that, but that's my take.
We don't need to.
I mean, how many performances are we going to have here?
Well, Main Street Arts is really excited about it.
Just call it an open space.
I actually see it as performance only because looking at our dynamics in our little town, I don't see what kids will play. Everything is here. Kids these days.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
Kids are not outside unless they can't afford the device, but they're
Well,
not
I have this
outside.
other idea that involves Sarah, which is I hope they're going to be weddings. I hope they're going to be lots of events that are appropriate to this space. I hope the 4th of July parade, and that's a lot remembering way back when we first started talking. Teresa she wanted to have a flat space at the top for art shows, for 4th of July things to go on, and we eked out as much as we could of that flat space now, with a little path, sort of going around it. So I feel like we've got all these different areas that are all useful. They're going to be small. and intimate, but that's okay, we're a small and intimate place.
We're gonna compete with Saxtons River.
Do you have any idea of what the capacity of the little amphitheater might be?
Oh, yeah, we did look into that.
This is a guess, 'cause this was a while ago, but it could be, I believe as much as 100 people.
Like
100
sitting really close to each other.
Friendly.
But Teresa, also not just on these, but there's also space over here on this sort of what we're calling what do we call it? Somersault hill.
It's a hillside,
And you can roll down,
Yeah.
but you can sit on it too. And so if there's a performance here, sitting here will be quite wonderful.
Now, will it be suitable for sliding?
Yeah. As long as we stop them from going too far. But I'm sure it'll be used that way. And we imagine that part of our thinking about sort of how this path evolves, that A, we needed ADA accessibility down to the lower part of the site, but B, we kept thinking of Bethany's children on bicycles, coming in and having fun on this site, because there is a little bit of level change, but it's still safe. So I think there's some fun things about it.
I have a few questions, they're random. Did you guys think about, the color change during the summertime? Good.
Yes.
I'm sure you did, just have to ask a question. In the beginning, first renderings, I thought the conduit, the electric outlet would be on the other side where the handicap parking spot. But I guess I was mistaken,
Yeah.
so it's on this side. Okay. So you're going to be running from pole somewhere here
Do
on
you
the
want to show
road?
where the conduit, just 1 second,
Yeah.
show where the conduit is on the plan, you want to show her?
Yeah, so
Clear up, clear up, and we've got it right
Right,
here.
so the outlet for it is just right here, so
Right.
that's accessible here. Are you asking about how the conduit runs? We have to take a look at the civil plans for that.
Okay. It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was-
Yeah, go ahead.
Another question I had, is talking of capping. So now we know what's capping and where it's going to be, where it's not. So all this play area, if you will, is under capping, right?
Yes.
So it's basically everything, all this walk and stopping at the biggest slope is capping, and then it's just a dirt field and planting and.
That's right.
Yeah, okay.
On the lower.
Yeah. And one more question I
Yeah,
have.
please.
I know we spoke before, but I'm sitting and keeping thinking about the same thing, the safety. The safety, the traffic going into this curve. I just want, if anybody has any thoughts, ideas, you guys maybe walk more and, go for a walk more than I am in that area. How do you feel of safety and parking and access into the post office and all that stuff?
Let's show you do you have the new drawings with the new crosswalk?
Yes.
Because this one is
An
Bob.
add-on to that question, the sidewalk that wraps around on Main Street,
Here?
is that got a raised sidewalk that's got a curb?
Well, let's show you.
Sorry.
We're talking about the new sidewalk on Main Street.
That's not
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There's
There's
a little bit, we've had to reduce, just show how this worked out.
Yeah, so there's a curve. It's generally a 5-inch curve, or excuse me, a 6-inch curve all along the edge of the roadway here. Because I think currently there is no curve, it's just kind of flat. So we have installed as a traditional granite curve. So you will be able to see the edge of the road better. And to address drainage issues, we installed, we're proposing an additional catch basin right here as well. So that's some of the new stuff along the side of the road.
Talking about that curb and that sidewalk, that is, Town of Rockingham isn't involved in that at all, as far as cost-wise?
So that, again, would be a question probably for the civil as to, how they've talked with the town about this. I do know that we very specifically did not change the layout of the road. I mean, it's, definitely not ideal, I think. It gets a little wide in here. We would have really liked to have, we would have liked to have addressed some of the traffic issues in here, but as soon as you do that, it's a whole other can of worms.
And it would have taken a lot.
Oh, yeah.
A lot longer and a lot more money.
Is that possible?
Not at this point, if we want to keep with our schedule, that is not possible. So I think what we did was do our very best with what we had, make it as safe as possible, make sure it drained properly. And we thought about the crosswalks in a new way, because that was one thing we could do.
Yeah.
So we did that. And I
How
hope
have the
that,
crosswalks changed?
So currently, I don't have the existing conditions printed out big, but if you look in the packet, one of the first pages will show you what's there currently. And I'll just describe it right now. The current crosswalk layout is that there's a crosswalk right here that connects across the street to the church. And then this right in here, you can see it's just an outline of the crosswalk. This is the one that goes to the post office currently. So what we're proposing to do is to remove this crosswalk, that is the one that's really long and goes across a really wide portion of the road, and replace it with a crosswalk. You basically just kind of realign it so that it ends up coming in right here, close to the parking spot and close to the curb cut. So
What's
that
the hit on the other side?
it's the post office. And it comes, I think it actually comes closer to, where, right now the existing crosswalk is kind of offset from the post office, so this one comes a little bit closer to the doorway. And it comes out to a point where instead of hitting a curb, a 6-inch curb, you come to a curb cut, so it's ADA accessible again, and you can then make your way up onto the sidewalk that's raised.
and it's the narrowest part of the road we could get to and still be close to the post office compared to what it is right now. So it's safer.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you were aware, I think it's on the website, when this was originally started way back when, it was combined with the safety audit of the whole intersection there, and there were some recommendations made. And I forget exactly who did it, but they were state safety experts, whoever that is.
Wyndham Regional.
So,
Wyndham Regional.
oh, Wyndham Regional?
I think they did it one time.
So I'm just wondering if changing the walkways requires, or if not requires, would benefit from some input from the road and safety.
Well, but the regional is
Do that.
still watching it.
Yeah. So they've seen that?
They've seen it.
Yeah,
They've
we've
seen it.
seen it, and we've been in touch with the Rockingham Highway Department, and they're on board. The next step after we get this design is actually going for our zoning permit, and that's when we get into the nitty-gritty of those details. And Nessa, just to answer your question about the electrical conduit, you're right, it does come on the eastern side. It comes down from the pole there into the park, and then the outlet comes, yes, on the outlet.
So the conduit, the power's coming from a pole near that ADA parking
So
spot?
Yep.
right over here.
Yeah, the pole is right in here. That might be that way, actually.
So where's the meter?
The meter
The
is
meter is next to it here, I can,
Okay.
it's right here.
Okay.
It's small, so you can see it on the plan.
On a pedestal, I would assume, another.
But the conduit leads to just that one outlet
Yes,
down at
that's
the
it.
play space.
Slash performing.
Okay.
Cartwheels possible.
They don't do cartwheels.
Okay.
I have a question about the path and the edging.
Yeah.
So it's Vermont and it freezes and thaws and freezes and thaws, and so that you have the asphalt and then you have the cobblestones. What about, is there contingency for maintenance of this path? Because I can see it all breaking up and rubbing against each other and all that good stuff.
So we're proposing to have along the edge of both sides of the path, it's this edging product that's underground that'll hold the cobbles in, and hopefully, that will at least, begin to address, seasonal weather changes and keep them in place, for as long as they can be set in place. But, over time, there might be some maintenance. Cobbles are relatively inexpensive if one of them needs to be replaced, just something else. Another reason why we're considering cobbles.
And the good thing about asphalt, again, compared to say concrete, which if that falls and if that pops up or something goes wrong, you have to put new concrete then, and it looks horrible because it's never going to match. Whereas at least with asphalt, it's not too hard to sort of make it look like it's always been there again. What else?
Quick question.
Great question. Yes.
We have this very lovely sign of the park.
Yes, we want a sign for the park.
So
And we put it into the proposal, into the budget. I don't think we have worked out exactly
No,
what it looks like.
it really just comes down to funding. You know, all we know right now is that we would love to have a sign, and if there's funding for it, then we will design it.
what's your proposal where it would be? What do you think?
Oh, good.
The proposal is to have it up in this corner right here.
Sort of here.
And, you know, it's really, depending on the type of sign, the layout could change. You know, but that's where we have it right now, so that's on the plan and in the budget.
I think we were thinking double-sided,
Yeah.
so that you could see it either way.
Is there going to be a little placard or anything of the history of the site, like what mill is there?
Well, it'd be great to have that on the sign, for instance. You know, there are many things. I mean, having the historic ideas are it's so compelling. Having photographs are wonderful of the site. So I don't know. Yeah, that's up to all of us.
How about a QR code?
A QR code for sure. Yeah, definitely. And then you can find it that way.
You hold up your phone to it, and it calls up all the information that's related to it on your phone.
Yeah. No. that's-
Something for the
that's how
children.
everyone's doing it these days. You might as well. You can get cell phone service.
It links to some.
Like, we can have it there for the time we finally get it.
Isn't there a cell phone tower?
Yeah, we don't have anything to do with that.
But they haven't put it in yet.
They haven't put it in, but
Do we have any other pretty pictures to show?
Those two are the prettiest, the ones that are the renderings there.
Is there anything else you'd like to see that we haven't talked to you about? There's all these other things that really get into the nitty-gritty.
So when you do the benches, are you, how are you going to decide the choices of the benches?
We are hoping to work again with a local artisan, somebody who can custom craft these benches out of wood. As far as the design, again, we have to wait until, you know, we end up with somebody to actually make the benches.
We can certainly buy cheap benches perfectly well. They're beautiful benches out in the market. They're urban street life benches that we use for other parks that we do. So there's plenty of great stuff. But I think benches can be very, political is the wrong word, but you know, their style becomes very important to people. So, and I understand there may be some donors out there with some benches, so you know, we're still a little bit flexible, but we put a goodly amount of money into the budget so that we can have beautiful, solid, good-looking benches. When we did the Music Garden in Toronto, there was a lot of wrought iron there that we did with a local artist up in Toronto. And we ended up designing a bench with him that we could actually replicate that's wrought iron, and then it has infill of slats of wood, so it's sort of the best of both worlds. And that could be a very beautiful bench here too, so.
I'm just picturing 12-year-olds riding their bikes on the benches, so they need to be super sturdy.
Oh, super sturdy, for sure. And there are plenty of great benches out there.
Are we going to anchor them?
Oh, yes.
They will walk away.
Yeah, we have a detail for that.
Regarding the benches, I thought that when we were talking about the backless benches, we were talking about stone.
We were originally.
And for continuity, just because there's only 3 benches on the property.
That's right. We sort of talked about it some more, but
Yeah.
you know, it's still possible to go back to stone if that's what we want to do.
I'm mildly concerned about the wooden benches is that they're very portable.
No, they're not. No, not the ones we work with. They are heavy.
How they put in their pad.
Screw into the ground really carefully. Yeah. Don't worry. We will not let them walk.
Yeah.
They're not going to just sit there and go. They're not bistro chairs. You know? Yeah. What else, everyone? What have we forgotten to tell you?
Well, while we're on the subject of benches, just a reminder that I know we got a lot of donation money for Ryan, and a bench was sort of the prevalent idea to remember him by. So I hope that's still on the table.
It's not up to us, it's up to them.
Yeah, well, that's.
But we want to have 3 benches similar looking, right?
Yes. Like we think it, because it's such a small park, we ended up feeling like if we have 2 benches that are stone and 1 bench that has a back that's different, and teak or whatever it might be, it maybe that, and they're close together really in a small space, maybe we'll just go with the same bench. But again, we're not sure where everything stands exactly, so we wanted to be flexible, so we put a good amount of money in for that to happen.
And, getting back to the question, Julie, how will it be decided? I know you talked about working with the local crafts person, but how will that be decided, given that there are so many opinions about that?
Yeah, well, that's
And I
a good
guess
question.
It all comes to the bottom line, I suppose, when you have proposals, have a few and see what we can
We'll
afford.
probably get a lot of proposals. I think this will be a very popular
And,
park.
yeah, and it's a non-cap item, so.
Yes, so we have a little bit of leeway to decide how to do that and, and to make sure we know who we want to work with and how to work with them. And at that point, then we can have another meeting, and look at some designs that we've discussed with those people and make a decision. I'm here, I'm donating my time to this, so I'm happy to always come back to you guys and work out the right bench for our park, because this park...
I think that you should guide us in this.
Well, don't worry, I'm good at that. But I also like hearing what you have to say, because you all live here too, and no, don't worry, it's okay. I won't let it go in the wrong direction, but I do think that something special will come out of it that we can't quite imagine yet. And that always is the best part. The benches are going to be important to all of us, because we're going to use them.
Could you just talk for a minute about the transition down in the lower right portion where the park that's being developed transitions to what's called the contested parcel on the property?
This area right
Yeah,
here.
I just want to know, what's being done in that area, so that I get a sense for how those 2 areas are going to transition together.
Great question.
It is, and we haven't really touched it, to be honest.
You haven't touched the contested area, but
Yeah,
you're
that's
touching the developed part, so I'm
Yeah.
interested about the interface between the 2.
Sure. So what's happening at this edge right here is there is a swath of planting, and then this is just a swath of lawn that would connect in with what is, I believe, pretty much lawn right now, to some degree, over here, the other side of the property line. And then down below this dashed line, this is where we would start to kind of sprinkle in additional shrub plantings among the existing tree line, and it just begins to peter out right along here. And this is a existing pretty dense grouping of trees, and that is where the planting ends, more or less.
Perfect, thank you.
That's it.
Just to follow up with that, are the plantings, is there going to be an area that's left open where people could potentially be traveling through there?
Yes.
They shouldn't
There
be.
needs to be.
They shouldn't be, but we have to keep it open because it's a right of way.
Yeah.
So we're not encouraging people to access
can't
that
block it right away.
area, but it has to be available to drive if anybody wanted to drive.
So we have to...
Yeah.
Just asking.
That's good.
Yep.
I know we didn't talk, we talked about having no electricity and street lights and all that. But would you recommend some kind of solar, small design, or don't do it?
Well, the good news is that there are state lights you can always choose to put in for a particular event that just go, I do it all the time at our house. Somebody comes and I want to walk them down, I stick some state lights in for my daughter's wedding. But other than that, they come out, and I like the flexibility of that, and I don't like the idea that we have an attractive nuisance in the middle of the night with people coming down and using the park, but we don't really want them to be. So I think we've talked a lot about this in the past.
That would probably come up in the zoning meeting too.
Yeah.
Because that would affect
Light,
the
yeah.
So the way we've left it is there are no lights in the park at this point.
So would the zoning people ask us how we're going to prevent people from going in there at night?
Well, the butter might ask that question in the meeting.
But people go in there now, and,
You're right. No, be the answer.
yeah, you know. And now, and this would be more open so you could see them in there.
That's the good news.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, all of it's going to be a little bit more open. This won't be quite as open as this, obviously, but this will be pretty obvious. We don't have impediments to being seen in the park.
And we're not trying.
Except for, of course, the grading itself
Yeah.
creates a wall. So I think it'll be much more safe because it's more obvious what's going on.
Right.
Angela, did you say earlier that there was money in the plan to remove some of the dead and fallen trees that are in the foundation area?
We're trying to keep the foundation area largely as it is because it's an area that we're trying to keep people away from. We have to protect those foundation walls because they're important from an archaeological standpoint. But if there's something that's dead, that would be associated with clearing and grubbing.
And there are some, and you're right, Ken, there are some big old branches.
So so yes, that is part of the plan, is to remove the dead and
Yes.
fallen trees?
That's part of the clearing and grubbing.
And we were putting some soil in there to cap it.
In the
And then-
inside.
And then also sort of a scattering of ferns and wildflowers in there that we've included some money in to do in both of these two foundations. One here and one.
That's part of the cap.
Part of the cap, yes.
And the flood line is way below, we're not gonna lose any new plantings if something happens.
So the flood lines are these gray dashed lines. Right?
Who knows? Teresa?
You know, while we're talking about clearing, I know at one point, we had talked about while people were there with their equipment and doing that there was, I think, one or two large trees from the flood that had fallen sort of along the edge of the river there, about clearing those out.
Well, it turns out that that was an idea, it was my idea long ago, and as we looked at it, to be able to bring large machines close into, be able to do that means we would disturb too much of that area. And the minute we start disturbing it, the archaeological part is violated, and we hurt all sorts of things like trees that are over there.
Also, God is going to take care of those trees real soon.
They will, that's right. And who knows if somebody doesn't.
Within 5 years.
Yeah.
Fish might take care of it. Important for the fish.
Yeah, exactly. There are a lot of good things about having fallen debris for the wildlife. It's a particularly good thing. So I think that we're going to see it. It'll get cleared as best we can, but it's never going to be perfect, and that's the way it should be.
This ain't Connecticut.
Sure. Any other questions? Great audience. Thank you for all those. And you know where we are. We're up in the White Building, second floor. If you guys want to stop by, look closely at the plans.
You're at the tin shop.
We're at the tin shop. That's right. Or the old hairdressers, whatever you want to say. And we love, we're always happy to see you. And it's getting really exciting now. We've come a long way. I mean, it's been how many years? Years and years. Now we're finally here. A lot of it's thanks to Angela.
Thanks to you guys.
So great. And Sam did a wonderful job working this out. I'm really lucky to have her. Team effort. And here's the other part.
Our other project.
Is there going to be new business to the trustees meeting? Yes, I do. I have. Oh, yes. Oh, my question is.
So we'll email both of you
Now, let's see, what are we going to go on to next?
Public comment? Should we do public comment?
Connie said she couldn't be here tonight, but she will have information for us as soon as she can.
Okay. Okay.
on the...
Would you like?
Yes, I have a question about, it deals with snow removal for both the drains, street drains, and the fire hydrants. Who is responsible for snow? For the fire hydrants as well?
I don't know.
I'm getting a little tired, quite frankly, as a business owner, and will get seriously quite emotional about this, and it seems absolutely ridiculous that I clear the main street drains during every snowstorm.
That'd be a town.
Because it's my business, I generally shovel out the hydrant on the corner. I do occasionally forget it, but I have responsibility for a lot of snow removal. It's very difficult to find someone to do snow removal, so I end up doing most of it myself. And the fact that I'm out there in the middle of Main Street, clawing away where the town of Rockingham plow in the drain, and then when the town does come after being called, they can't find the drain. And then don't, plow out 4 inches, don't actually shovel out. And when I asked the town manager last year about them shoveling out the drains, he said they're not going to get out of their trucks. And why would we expect them to? We're lucky that they plow.
Even though we pay them to do it.
That would have been my response. And I specifically paid them because, as do you, as does everyone here,
Right.
as homeowners and property owners.
So, do you know where these drains are?
Yeah, one drain, Thad Guile, who plowed it out because he does my plowing, contrary to popular rumor that the town of Rockingham plows out my parking lot. They just don't snow in it. If you're standing on Main Street and you're looking down Academy Ave, it's absolutely parallel to the sidewalk.
On the left or the right?
If you're looking, where the sidewalk would come into Main Street, that's where the drain is.
Oh, okay.
And then there's a drain in front of the store as well. But if both of those don't get shoveled out, flooding happens, the flooding goes across Academy Ave and across Main Street.
So, as far as the hydrants are concerned, we can ask the fire department to look into that and make sure they're plowed.
Well, I plowed out the one at top of Maple Street
Yeah.
How many
2
are there?
storms ago, because it's the closest one to my house.
You're right, exactly, that's why I jumped
And
on.
I tend to the storm drain right there, because when that plugs up with leaves or is left frozen over, that water comes down Maple Street, turns right onto River Street and floods out my basement.
Right, and
And
that's
the
why
town for years and years have neglected snow removal in Saxtons River. I voiced my concerns about this, and I actually called and emailed this 2 storms ago to have the snow removed on Main Street. Many years ago now, probably 20 at least, every fall, the town of Rockingham used to come around and freshen up those yellow lines out into the road, and they have not been done. They do not do it, and then they would know where they are. A few years back, I called complaining about the fact that they weren't, there's warm weather and rain coming, and they don't come and find them. I was told, well, the guys that come out there don't know where they are. Well, if you put the yellow line out in the middle of the road, they'd know where they are. So it's, I get frustrated with it too, because it should be taken care of. But we're not the authorities. We don't have much to say about it.
Yeah.
We have something to say about it, but we can't do anything about it. So that's a town of Rockingham Select Board meeting to go to.
Yeah, I will. That was 2, fire hydrants and storm drains.
Well, we might be able to help with the fire hydrants. Okay. All right, moving on. Fire station, any reports?
Peter Dolick has been kind of moving things along to to get some answers on estimated costs on some different style construction. So we should have something for the board soon.
Okay.
We're going to meet and kind of review that information.
Okay, wastewater treatment plant upgrade. We have,
So, report on the email we received
yes,
today.
right.
So we received today from Gary Leach at Tata and Howard, his, I guess, called it the evaluation and recommendation for the bids that we received on the 26th of October. And did you print out the numbers? Oh, good. So his recommendation is that we move forward with the low bidder, which is Penta Construction. But their bid is more than what we've got budgeted for the project right now. So Gary has, or Tata and Howard have worked with Penta to reduce their costs somewhat. They're also recommending taking out the removal of the existing structures on site, so the existing buildings that are on site, to reduce some cost. And he's also recommending that we reduce the contingency on the project. But with all of that being done, the project cost is currently at $3,695,300. We have a bond vote for $3,550,000. So we're, what, $145,000, gap there. So we just received that today. So I think it's something we're going to have to discuss as far as what we want to do moving forward at this point.
Now, he had suggested he has not talked to USDA about it yet. If the trustees decide to use the funds from the capital reserve account, there may be no need for additional funds. Except our capital reserve fund now is $76,500. So it's not $150,000.
What does leaving the buildings on the site, will they be used, or do they just then go derelict?
They would go derelict.
The oldest one probably should come down at some point. The newer one, I mean, they're saying it needs a new roof structure, but the building itself is all right. It's place for the sidewalk plow.
Yeah, that building is the newest building.
Yeah.
The garage.
Yeah,
But it still has roof issues.
right, that's what I was saying.
And there's asbestos in that too,
There is?
as far as I know.
In the roof?
Yeah,
So we can't have like a community tear down day?
you probably could. Or we get caught.
There's asbestos in the roof?
I think so, in the material. You'd be surprised where the asbestos hides. As we found out in Bellas Falls, it's in the caulking, it's in the rubber, it's in the glue. They still make it today, that's the sad part. Products still have asbestos in them today. So, but yeah.
So
So do you have a recommendation we're gonna,
no, I don't.
okay?
So we just got this, so is there some action that is to be taken immediately?
The only time urgency, other than the condition of the plant, is that the contractor's bid expires on January 24th.
So there is urgency.
Yeah, and it's not going to become less at any point.
There's nobody who can do it for $150,000?
Well, I think
Well,
there's still probably.
every time we ask it, the price goes up.
Yeah.
We probably would want to look, line by line anyway, again, talk to
Take a few, maybe try to mark it.
Gary and try again. I don't know what else to do.
I mean, we've been at this for almost a year. It was maybe not quite a full year, but at least 10 months, and 2 rounds of bidding, which, we never got to the number that, we had bonded for. So I don't know how much opportunity there is to get to that number.
Can we amend the bond?
We did that once.
That's an option.
But that involves voting.
Yeah, I think we would,
A whole nother,
You want to flush your toilet?
right.
but it costs money to also do it.
What do they cost? $3,000 for all?
I can't hear you.
It costs money to do a vote.
Not too much, but.
How much? Do you have a guesstimate?
So what's the difference between what we have and what they would like? 150,000?
Well,
Yeah.
about 150,000. I think it's 145.
145.
Can we put it on a credit card?
You never could.
145,000. Yeah, sorry.
Get some miles?
I want that credit card.
Ben, and that is also reduced contingency that he proposes, right? So
That's with
we
the-
might look into something that, we are not anticipating and run out of
Right.
all on it. which is-
That's,
And I hate the thought of derelict buildings, I just, that's just asking for trouble, and delaying this however many years, 10 or 20, depending on who you talk to, has just made things go higher and higher and higher. I mean, I understand that the buildings might get,
in their contract that they signed, you guys signed with them, was there anything that they had to provide, an end product, that they haven't done? No?
They
The
provide-
engineers?
Yeah.
No, they've satisfied that.
Yeah,
They set aside a project that we can't afford,
yeah,
but they
They've
gave
done-
us,
they've done all
they
the work.
gave us a number
I know.
yeah.
that we went out and bond voted for,
Right.
and yet they can't, that number doesn't get.
but I would bet in their contract it says something that they can't be responsible
Oh, no.
for increased costs.
It just seems funny that,
Yeah.
but they keep taking money from the village residents,
Yeah.
and have taken money from the village residents. Every time we do a vote, every time we do
Yep.
another meeting,
Yeah, beating, yeah.
it's just sad that there's not that in the contract, which I'm surprised. It's all about the engineers.
So I think we need to probably have a trustee meeting, if not a special, trustee meeting to discuss our
They have 70s.
options, but I think the
That's still 75.
next step is
That's what we
probably,
have.
I will reach out to USDA. I know they haven't seen this yet. And, see if it's acceptable. The contingency piece, I think they're gonna push back on that. USDA will push back on that because the number that's in there right now represents about 2%. Contingency, and when we're talking last summer, they wanted at least 5%. So I don't know if if they'd be comfortable with a 2% contingency.
Yeah, especially since we're so close to the planet, so close to the wire.
In the meantime, Rob, you're holding the fort, use whatever, duct tape, anything
Trust
you
me,
got
we're
there.
doing that now. That's part B of my discussion out here.
We need to go into the executive session.
Yeah.
Talk about this.
Okay, is there any other business? You have something, Rob?
I just want to bring everybody up to speed on the plan.
Yeah, okay.
Over this cold snap
Yeah.
is the clarifier through it, one of the gears. The clarifier was turning, motor was running, but it wasn't turning paddles inside the tank down at the bottom. Ended up being a small brass gear, and basically it's because the tank on the surface froze 10 inches thick because of the cold weather. We discovered it Monday, the first of the year, and we've made fixes to it. It's back up and running, and I've ordered 2 more sets of these. Unfortunately, it's brass gear. They're not very big, so they don't take a lot of resistance before it just strips it out. Their 2-week lead time should be here hopefully the end of this week or beginning of next week.
Is this the other things the $1,000 of?
Yeah, that's the 2 gears.
Oh.
Five.
So we don't have it yet?
Don't have that yet, no, that was the proposal that he said and told.
Oh, okay, so we're not gonna pay the bill then yet?
Not yet,
Okay.
no.
All right,
No, we have not received the
I'll
product.
take it out.
So hopefully, and it's just I don't know if we're going to another cold spell. We're going to go into a little bit of thaw here.
Tropics.
Yeah, exactly. And then maybe we'll break back into it. So we're trying to thaw the tank as much as we can now in this warm weather, but it's just Mother Nature. I mean, everything down here has got the tank's together full of ice. The rotor that spins and the oxidation ditches was ice covered. Now it's starting to break up. It's actually decent ice. Still working. That's actually tripped off a couple times in the cold weather, but it comes back on, reset it. So hopefully we'll cross our fingers here, but yeah, we gotta do something. We gotta do something soon with the plant, one way or the other, moving forward with it, because its days are numbered. That's all I got to say.
Okay,
Thank you.
any other business?
Well, Matt, you were suggesting,
Make a motion to go into executive session?
Yes.
All right. Do I hear a second?
Do we need some additional verbiage there?
So 6 reasons require 2 distinct separate motions: contracts, labor relations agreements, arbitration, mediation, grievances, public litigation. So the first motion is I move to find that premature general public knowledge, because that's what we're doing, of contracts will clearly place the municipality at a substantial disadvantage
Yes.
by reason of negotiating strategy.
Sounds good.
Sure.
I so move.
I welcome
I
that.
so moved.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
I protest that as a citizen of this village, I have the right to, no, please.
We're in executive session, so that's...
That requires, the second motion, I move that the board enter executive session to discuss the contract
Yes.
with the stated company under provisions of Title I, Section 313A1 of the Vermont statutes.
Okay.
Okay, you moved
Do
that?
we need...
I
So moved.
She moved it.
Seconded, okay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Now we're in executive.